Hello, everyone, and welcome to TREKTIVISM. My name is Matthew Cimone. I am one of the podcast hosts here on the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. I'm also the founder and operate a small, modestly sized nonprofit organization called Esther's Echo. I'm joined here in the panel today by John Billingsley from Enterprise, Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek The Next Generation, Armin Shimerman and Chase Masterson from Deep Space Nine, Kitty Swink, who's also appeared on Deep Space Nine, Noah Averbach-Katz from Discovery, and Roddenberry from the Roddenberry Foundation. To kind of set the tone, I have this quote that I wanted to read, and it's from astronaut Bill Anders from the Apollo 8 mission. And he said, as they were flying around the moon and looking back at the Earth, which is one of the most distant images of the Earth ever taken by humans, they said, "We came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered Earth." And I think this is really important for us. When I hear a lot of people talk about their inspiration from Star Trek, it's often, they take all this energy from the fandom, from watching the show, and they go on to be like engineers and astronauts or go into film. I was terrible at mathematics and I have terrible eyesight, so I knew I wasn't going to become an astronaut. And I didn't see a way into film. But what I did see is that people were traveling around on the Enterprise and in the Federation doing good in the universe. And so I thought, hey, maybe I can do that. All that technology was to make a difference. And so when I began to explore, I couldn't explore up, but I could explore out. And when I started traveling, I studied international development. And that's when we met the community partner. Her name is Esther Canu, that went on to start the organization with me called Esther's Echo. So all of you behind, outside of the makeup and offset are all running these like amazing projects. And I think it's so inspirational that people that we've watched on television who have inspired us in this future are doing work from that future in the present. And so I wanted to give a chance to each of you to talk about your projects. And maybe we'll start with Rod. So Rod from the Roddenberry Foundation, Rod Roddenberry. You and I have met before, and I got to ask you this question once when we were in an interview, and I thought I would ask you again. We were talking about your father, and at one point he had said that humanity was in its infancy. And so I asked you, do you think that the Roddenberry Foundation is like a way for humanity to grow up out of its infancy, supporting different projects? Talk to us a little bit about the foundation.
So, you said something about not being into the entertainment industry. And even though I've got the last name, I haven't been nose deep in the industry myself. And what the foundation was my way, my opportunity to, as people have heard me say before, I truly love and embrace the Star Trek philosophy, this idea of this better future of humanity working together, regardless of the diversity between us, embracing and craving and thirsting for the diversity in our universe. And I thought the foundation was a great opportunity to sort of take those ideas and bring them into real life. And so to find the individuals, the institutions, and the organizations out there that are working towards the long-term advancement of our species, not Band-Aid solutions, but things that are going to take decades to solve and have real systemic change. So that was sort of my way of saying, I love this idea. Let's see if we can find the people who are truly out there trying to make this happen. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years now.
Yeah, and I've seen there's a lot of opportunities for people to apply for funding through the organization, and the foundation is supporting initiatives like all over the whole world.
Yeah. It's been great. We kind of have you can think of it as sort of three levels. We have the small catalyst, which is people from all over the world can submit their ideas, and it could be a village, it could be a town, it could be in Oklahoma. It's just someone who has a great idea on how to make their community or their space better. And then we move up to a higher amount of money for our fellowship program, and these are people who are actually making bigger change. And of course, we have our prize, which we've been kind of changing and developing each year, and we're going to do again. And that's usually in the larger numbers, and it's to recognize the people out there who are really moving humanity forward, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Chase, I just finished watching your TED Talk again. I watched it a couple months ago, and then I rewatched it today. So everyone who's out there, Chase Masterson has a TEDx talk, so make sure you go check it out. And there's a quote in it, and it says, "Every hero has an origin story that begins with doubt, powerlessness, and fear. And certainly you took a moment like that and then completely changed it and started the Pop Culture Hero Coalition. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you so much. It really did start with my own doubt, powerlessness, and fear. After a stalking incident, I had a real serious, extremely serious challenges, deep depression, and I was angry, really, truly angry at the world. And a friend of mine said, if you want to feel better, why don't you go help people who have life worse than you and who are as angry as you? And the only people I could think of who were as angry as me were ex-gang members. So I started mentoring at Homeboy Industries, Crips and Bloods, and MS-13 and 18th Street Gang, and all of the quote unquote worst of them. And I started realizing that everyone is simply a product of where they've been and their cumulative experiences. And as we say, hurt people, and healed people, healed people. And as it says in the talk, I was going to Trek conventions and to Comic-Cons on the weekends. And here we were celebrating these billion-dollar properties with fictional bullets flying. And then I go on Monday and work with kids who live where there are real bullets flying. And I wondered, how did they ever get a chance to break out of the lives that they have? And why wasn't I born there? Why weren't they born where I was born? And what happens? How does this, how do our lives take shape in the world? And I started realizing I won the birth lottery. Pretty much all of us did. And all of us could have been born anywhere. So I started thinking, how do we take these stories that we celebrate in work and in these events and make them happen in real life? Yeah. How do we teach people how to be heroes? And so in 2013, I founded Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which is the first ever 501c3 to use stories from Star Wars, The Avengers, Wonder Woman, and other stories we love to teach mental health, because that's the basis of everything. Whether we learn resilience, whether we learn communication, whether we bully or have, as Rod said, just cherishing, excited inclusion, all of that is based on mental health, our self-image, and all of the things that we can teach. We can teach empathy. That's what science shows us. So we started doing that.
That's awesome.
And thank you. We created a program, and in the middle of the pandemic, when we didn't expect anything good to happen, YMCA took it over. Not took it over, actually. Sorry, they bought it from us, basically, for the purpose of YMCA. And we are the mental health program for children, teens, and parents for YMCA nationwide.
Wow. So good. And taking such like a, initially negative experience and like turning the whole thing around, which is awesome. Armin, Kitty, and Jonathan, I understand that you're all three of you involved in the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and part of Purple Stride. I saw that there's a team Star Trek that's fundraising right now. I was reading that on the website. It says 60,000 people alone will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States this year alone, and that it is specifically difficult to diagnose and to treat. But all three of you have been personally touched by pancreatic cancer. So I was wondering if the three of you could talk a little bit about that initiative.
Jonathan, with your permission, we'll let Kitty start, and then I'll go to you, and then I'll pick up the end.
Perfect.
So in 2004, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I had a 3% chance of surviving 5 years, 3% chance of making it 5 years. And I was likely not going to make it to my 50th birthday. But I decided that I didn't have time to die, that I still had things to do. And I was lucky enough to have good insurance, a good husband, great friends, and brilliant doctors. And I was really unusually fit, and they caught it at stage 2. And so I started, even at that point, I'm talking to people every day who people call me and say, I hear you've got it and you were operable and blah, 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 and we can talk. And there's the other dog. And so I became involved in helping people on a one-on-one basis. And then Larry Pressman, who a lot of people from Star Trek would know, Lawrence Pressman, called me and said, my friend Charlotte Ray, who I think you've met, has just been diagnosed. Will you help her? And Charlotte became sort of my bubby, my grandmother. And
I didn't teach her that word, by the way.
Says the Irish girl. So Charlotte and I started going to events for Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and speaking together. And I would carry an apple box because as tall as I am, Charlotte was teeny weeny. And then last year, PanCan came to me and said, "Will you become an ambassador for us?" And I said, "I would be happy to. Our niece has long since been raising money for you, and I did all this for Charlotte. I was happy to do it. I'd be happy to." I said, "Let me talk to Armin and our friend Jonathan, because Jonathan lost his brother to this disease, and I think we can do something with TREK." And here we are, a little over a year later, and we're still doing it and really excited about what we've done. In the last year, it doesn't sound like much, the 5-year survival rate has gone from 10% to 11%, but that's a 10% difference. Yeah. So we've got a lot of work to do, but there you go. Jonathan?
Oh. First of all, Roddy, that Hampshire education clearly paid off. And Jay, I'm always reminded how passionate and articulate and wonderful you are about what you believe in, and it's great to be reminded of that. My wonderful brother, Daniel Frakes, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer about 25 years ago. And when they opened him up, said he has about 6 months to live, which he barely made it. He died about 5 months later, just before Eliza, a friend of Kitty and Armin and mine, daughter, was born. My father, who had Alzheimer's, never really survived my brother's death and never recovered or never really fully embraced it and understood mourning and everything that went with it. And my mother, the wonderful Doris Frakes, was given hope because I told her about my friend Kitty. My friend Kitty, who's now in 18 years of survival, who I've known for a lot of years, almost as long as I've known Armin, is a survivor.
Almost.
And every time I went to see my mom, she'd ask about Kitty because obviously it reminded her of Daniel. So the hope that I got from Kitty, I was able to pass on to my mom. And Kitty came to me last year and said, "Do you want to be involved?" And I've been thrilled and proud to be part of something that I actually have a real connection to and feeling for. We're in the second year, and we're going to crush them this year with the TREK.
I just want to say, I'm fast out of the gate, Jonathan.
Yeah, I know. I have to shame my cast into finally giving some money.
Well, I checked out the Team TREK link, and it's already gotten donations, even like since yesterday.
It's Kitty who's gotten donations, but it doesn't matter. It all goes into the same pot.
That's right. George gave us money last year, but he gave it to me, Jonathan. Just saying.
Yeah, it's true. Armin.
Thank you. Chase said something that I think is absolutely true. She said we won the birth lottery. And that's what's happened to all of us. We have won the birth lottery, thanks to Rod and his family. And so for us, it's a matter of giving back. We are fortunate. Kitty is an 18-year survivor, but we've heard of so many people who've gotten this horrible disease and not been as lucky as Kitty, including Jonathan's brother. This is an opportunity for us to try to stop that, to make a difference. And it is the theme, as Rod said, of Star Trek to give hope, to make the world a better place, that when we leave this, that we've made a difference. And that's what we're trying to do here. A 10% jump in the survival rate is incredible. When Jonathan's brother was diagnosed, I think it was 3%. When Kitty, she just said she heard 3%. It is now 10%. So you can already see that progress is being made, and that 1% is huge as well. What we're supporting is an organization that helps in research, helps to support families whose family members have become infected or diagnosed with this, and also is helping the patients themselves. It is a really remarkable organization, and I know the three of us are very proud and honored to be part of it. And we have we have reached out to the Star Trek community because we have found over the course of many years how generous, how kind, how charitable that community is. And we reach out to others as well. But we know that the Star Trek community will not only help with our organization, but with Chase's organizations, with Rod's organizations, with John's organization. The people who believe in Star Trek believe in helping, and we are very grateful for that.
They believe in helping, and they believe in science, which is a remarkable 1-2 punch, I have to say.
Helpful. Yeah. Noah, you shared with me a little bit earlier talking about how the fandom can be of help, and you've experienced that definitely already. Tell me a little bit about your work with T1 International and the support you've already received from the Star Trek fandom.
Yeah, I've been a type 1 diabetic for about 20 years now. And one of the things I really hoped when I was on the show and finishing up my little run there was to get more involved in the community, because there's not really a strong lightning rod or voice in that community on the sort of actor side. And so I put in my Twitter bio just a little T1D, which is type 1 diabetic, and somebody made a little graphic, which I immediately jumped on. I put it out to the fandom, and over the course of 2 fundraisers, just from Star Trek fans wanting to participate, we raised about $20,000 for T1 International, which is a fantastic organization because it focuses on empowering communities all across the United States and across the world to advocate for access to insulin, access to diabetic supplies, and they basically build grassroots organizations to legislate both on the state level and the federal level as well. And it's really, that money is hugely important because they're a small organization and they don't take any money from pharmaceutical companies, which is a huge problem in the diabetes and insulin sphere, because that is why insulin is so expensive in the US. And, I've just really appreciated all of the positive feedback. I often have excess insulin. I'm very lucky in that respect, that we've all been saying, and I can ship it directly to people across the United States, even though it's illegal. Please don't tell anybody. But Star Trek fans are so great at boosting that message. And I've reached so many people who are in dire, desperate need of insulin. And I've reached them because of retweets or shares, or they know somebody, they know a friend. And it's just been great the way that the Trek community has responded and been so supportive and made a real difference in people's lives. And I've seen that many, many times in this short little tenure.
Fantastic. Thank you. And John, of course, the reason why we're here today in support of the Hollywood Food Coalition, I was reading a little bit more about Hollywood Food, 60,000 meals a year, feed an entire city. Every year, every day for 34 years. And one of the things I was thinking about, I was watching the videos that we've been showing, and especially in the packaging and preparation of the meals, it wasn't just delivering food, but I was thinking about the dignity in that as well, right? It's not just coming up and saying like, oh, okay, well, we need food, so we're just going to give food to people. But the fact that we're thinking about like the presentation of food, how it's packaged, how it's given to someone, and like it's just the importance of the dignity there in trying to serve people. It was just astonishing. But tell us a little bit more about why we're all here today.
Well, there's so many ways to come into this conversation, and I've been talking all day. So at the risk of dodging your question, there are a couple of things I did want to respond to, because I've covered certain areas already. We do a lot in our community, but to Rod's point, one of the key things is, how do you look at systemic problems with food rescue and food distribution? Mm-hmm. We sit at a lot of tables with a lot of people in this ecosystem of food delivery, trying to figure out what we can do collectively that we cannot do individually. We need more refrigeration. We need more transportation. We need more storage. We need to identify the communities in need. We need to figure out where food is coming from. A recent bill, Senate Bill 1383, mandates, for instance, that grocery stores now give 20% more than they've been giving already to organizations in need, which is all very well and good, but the capacity doesn't exist to take that food. We've got a RAND study coming up that's going to address some of those questions. A lot of what the Food Coalition, for me, is about is how do we play a key role in building a federation? And that's also what this is. Yes. The word that appealed to me, coalition, reminded me of the word federation. As much as I wanted to support the Hollywood Food Coalition in this event, I wanted to support Star Trek, and I wanted to encourage Star Trek to do this shit a lot more.
Yes.
Because there's nothing stopping us. Armin's been involved in it. Jonathan's been involved in it. Rod's been involved in it. This amazing community of artists from all sorts of worlds comes together to support one another, to support each other's causes, and we bring an audience with it. And to me, the mission is to say wider, 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 bigger embrace, bigger hug, more causes, more stories, more help, more support. So yes, this is about the Hollywood Food Coalition, but this is also my challenge. Will you come back next year? Excellent. Gang, we've got the next year underway.
Well, this is the part that I was really excited about, because I mean, Chase, you probably don't remember this, but like back in 2015 at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention, I saw your table, like the pop culture table, and I thought, oh, this is neat. Here's a Star Trek actor who has this cause, and it's here on the floor. It's not a table that's dedicated toward like, you know, buying another merchandise figure, action figure, or whatever. It's like, let's take some of that fandom and put it toward positive change. And so I was so excited when the Trektivism panel was announced for this, and that I got asked to moderate, because this is why I got into the fandom. I was that we could take all that energy and make some real world change happen with it. And I hope that we see more of these kinds of panels when we all get back to like non-virtual conventions, where we could actually have and talk about, you know, the work that everyone's doing and share it with one another as well. So I completely agree with you, John. This is really exciting stuff, and I'm so glad that we get to do this kind of work with each other.
A little bit
go ahead.
Potentially exciting bit of news, Rod.
Well, here the idea is to obviously bring awareness to this, and I actually feel terrible because listening to all of you and all the I'm sorry to just call them causes, but the things that you've dedicated your life to in many ways. But we're here talking to John. In order to incentivize people, hopefully, I think the Roddenberry Foundation would be more than happy to match donations today up to 30K.
Wow.
Right now, I see it as 23,203, and so I would like to challenge everyone listening right now, whether it's $1 or more, to see if you can bring that number up to 30,000, and preferably blow it away. But I think that would be great. And to hear that you've given out so many meals, John, we've talked about this in the past, but I mean, it's just I often forget things and then hear them again and go, holy shit!
I gotta
can I say that?
One. Oh, I've been cursing all day, honey.
Okay.
One of the things I love about Star Trek is we're fucking profane. I'm sorry, but I know Jonathan Frakes is, and by God, if Jonathan Frakes can be profane, John Billingsley can be profane. I got to say, one of the things that's really meaningful to me, we leaned into COVID. We thought this city was in need. We started rescuing and sharing food with all sorts of other not-for-profits. The idea being that if you're in a shelter for battered women, or you're in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program, you got to have good food every single day, or you're not going to stick with the program. Food is foundational. Out of a good meal consistently served comes the possibility of climbing the ladder. You know, everything is contingent upon those. What do you need to do every day? You need to take a dump. You need to eat. You need to eat. You need to eat. So food for us is a way in. And Rod, you recognize that. Rod and their foundation has donated to us before. It was a significant and meaningful gift. That is such. I'm verklempt right now. Thank you.
Well, the amount of effort that you've put into this, and the fact that everyone's shown up. I mean, all of you guys. It's incredible.
Yeah, and Jonathan Frakes, by the way, this was his idea, really, because he did one of these a little while back with the Trek geeks for feeding America. It's true. And I thought, that sounds like a good fucking idea. I'm going to steal it. I've pretty much stolen everything in my career from Jonathan Frakes, so why not this?
So maybe before we wrap up, just a little bit of information where everyone can find all of us. Obviously, Hollywood Food Coalition today, donate.trektalks.net, t1international.com with Noah, roddenberryfoundation.org with Rod, popculturehero.org with Chase, purplestride.org/Team Trek for Jonathan, Armin, and Kitty. And if people want to check out my organization, I'm at estherzeco.org. You can check out that organization as well.
Please say PanCan.
PanCan, thank you, yes.
And by the way, my mom also passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 70, and she was given a matter of months, and she didn't even make it 2 months.
Yes.
And I, you know, your work is incredibly meaningful to me. So thank you from Suzanne Booth Goodbar, Billingsley.
The problem
And
is,
I keep refreshing the page here, guys. I'm watching that number.
What are we up to?
Yeah.
I see 23,403 is what I'm seeing. I don't
Well,
know.
when
how
we
accurate
were
that is.
backstage, Jonathan Frakes said, "I don't think they're going to make it past 25." I said that they could do it, but Jonathan was saying that. So I don't know.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
Up to you guys.
we're gonna
He's always
it.
been a doubter, huh?
Yeah.
Gonna make it.
That pot. He's taking your job, Johnny.
Chase, you have your hand up.
I just want to jump in and say a huge amount of respect for you, John, and what you're doing. My sister used to volunteer with West Hollywood Food Coalition, and I would help her sometimes. And I've seen your work up close. And, I think there's sometimes a stigma about people who are on the street, or just a misunderstanding of why they're there. She worked with people who are going to college every day at Santa Monica College, who are on the street because they lost a good, solid paying job that they've had for many years at a shoe store, for instance. A woman had a stroke and couldn't afford her medical bills. Another woman had a son who had medical issues, and he went to live somewhere and she landed on the street. And there's so many reasons that life is so fragile. And what we've seen is that you guys really do help people that don't have any other choices.
As somebody very eloquently said, if you are not mentally ill when you start living on the streets, you will become mentally ill. Anxiety is a mental illness. Emotional upset, paranoia, neurosis, depression. It is not possible to live on the streets and unfortunately, we do not do a good job in this country recognizing that all forms of mental illness are not designed to be treated pharmaceutically. Much of it is meant to be taken care of through love and compassion and attention and friendship and caring. Yeah.
And I'm afraid the last 2 years have given you so many more people living on the street in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And we're not here to talk about politics, so I will bite my tongue.
No, but you know what I'm reminded of, John Billingsley?
Yes, sir.
Maybe you should be mayor.
Let's
start there and then move up.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Your background, like how much?
Atheist.
Yeah, that's okay.
No, that is the third rail of American politics, I could not stand up there and say, God bless America. Couldn't do it. Sorry for anybody who's watching, but that's one of the gags. One of the gags that to me is frustrating about politics is you really can't be honest. You can't be profane. You can't say what you really believe. You can't speak from your heart. You have to couch it. And I appreciate that, Jonathan. I've been involved in politics. And the reason I'm here is because politics is fundamentally about this. I got to win. I got to get this office. And I believe that we should pull together in things that are fundamentally communitarian. And that's where the energy has to be spent, but thank you. And, I suppose if I'm appointed mayor, I'll take it.
We're still writing you in.
Vote.
Yeah,
Yep.
Poverty is not a political issue. Humanity is not a political issue.
It shouldn't
going to
be.
take all of us to conquer the world's problems.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of us.
I have no idea whether or not we're like running late or nobody said anything. So
We haven't gotten cut off yet, which is kind of
okay.
nice,
This is fabulous. This is the one panel I was afraid I was going to start crying during.
So if they're not going to cut us off, I might ask John one more question, because you said earlier, everybody has, in one of the other panels, he said everyone has something to give back to the world. If it's not just donations, that's part of it, but us as individuals right now, especially the way the world has been lately, it's been so hard. And part of me wants to just hide in the basement and just watch Star Trek. And that's part of it. We should all do that too. But when we want to actually get out in the world and have an actual impact, what should we be doing as humans to turn this situation around?
I tell you, finding your volunteer bliss to me is what life is all about. And you don't know where it's going to come from. Maybe you don't know where it is right away, but there is something out there that can animate you. And in your community, I guarantee you, just start Googling and you will find a world of amazing organizations that you will want to marry. I came into the Hollywood Food Coalition to make a fruit salad, and I became the board president. As I joked before, anything can happen in America. And in fact, our next video is kind of about this, because I only have 7 fans, but one of them made this amazing pitch called Socks for Flocks. So what you're going to see coming up is how one fan, Brooke Perez, made a difference to the Hollywood Food Coalition. There's always something you can do to give back. So
I second that, John. Finding your charitable bliss is really, really important. It is